Cross, yes.
So we've had Blue Cross now for 11 years?
Well, since 2002. Well, we had them before.
Right.
We left for 2 years
United Healthcare then came back.
and then came back, yes.
So at what point, beyond just negotiation, at what point do they go out for an RFP?
Upon our request,
So don't you think we're at time?
we can do that,
We're
absolutely.
15 years in then, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's good practice that we do that as well.
Correct.
And maybe we do it concurrent with the RFP for Aon, or does it make sense to do it ahead of it?
Well, we would want to do, it's too late in the year to do it for next year.
Right?
So we would actually want to do an RFQ for the brokerage services first, because the brokerage service actually does negotiations. So
Okay.
we would decide on if we were going to retain Aon or move to somebody else, and then we would give that firm direction on going out to a full market
Okay.
for medical.
All right, so we're going to put that as part of the bid, that, you know, whoever comes on board in 2020, whether it's Aon or someone else,
They're required to do a
their
full
first
market.
deal is that they need to go out on the, okay,
Yes,
good, thanks.
you're welcome.
Bruce, how often do we go out for bid? How often do the RFQ? Is it, I mean, you said it's been 15 years. Is there any set markers that we do this? Or if it's not broke, don't fix it, we just stay?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is the adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
I know that the employee population played a very big role, and the unions did, when we left Blue Cross and went to United Healthcare, and then went back to Blue Cross.
Okay.
Because those 2 years with United Healthcare really wasn't a nightmare. Obviously, the Blues are the biggest players in Illinois.
Okay.
We do get the biggest discounts. They have the widest, largest networks. You know, we can also look at the fixed fees, the admin fees, because we're self-insured, so it's administrative services only. And look at fixed fees, which is really a small portion of our overall spend on healthcare. But it's not a bad idea every so often to keep these companies on their toes. You know, sharpen their pencils.
Should there be a marker every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Is that?
I think every 3 years is a little too soon.
Okay.
You know, because new programs are introduced within the health plan, and you got to give it time to gel and spread. You know, I would say with the actual medical insurance company like Blue Cross, probably 10 years is probably a good idea. Brokerage, again, if it's not broke, you know, maybe 7, 8 years, 9 even. But obviously, if there's fundamental problems that we're experiencing, I would certainly recommend doing it sooner.
But you said population also dictate employee population up and down. That would also.
Yeah, and age too. So, you know.
We don't talk about age.
Actually, our average age of our total employee population is age 34.
Tyler, you can relate to that. So. Okay. Yeah, we want to. Thank you, Bruce.
Welcome.
Thank you, Herb and Bruce and Mike. Is there any more questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion to place this on the Will County Board agenda. So, do I have a second? Second. Okay. Motion and second to move this to the county board agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
There's not too many.
Yeah, they're not wide open eyes or something.
I couldn't hear you, Julie, that's all.
She's not on committee, you just.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Herb. Now let's move on to the DuPage River Study Update and next steps. And we're calling on Scott Killinger and Dave Dubois to come up and talk to the entire group here.
Good morning. I am here with Scott on behalf of Nick Palmer. I know that in your packet, there are documents related to a resolution that we're requesting that the board consider. Just to give you a little background, I'll make this as brief as possible. In July of 2015, the county entered into a feasibility cost-sharing agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the DuPage County Stormwater Commission, and the purpose is to conduct a study of flood problems within the DuPage River watershed. This project's been ongoing. We've been working with the Corps for a long time on this. I know the county so far has contributed over the course of a couple of fiscal years a little over $600,000 with work in kind of about $100,000. So we have a lot of investment in this project. As part of the ongoing approval process, the Chicago District recently required the county to provide 3 non-binding documents, and those are in your packet. The first is a non-binding letter of support. The second is a non-federal sponsor self-certification of financial capability for decision documents. And the third was the assessment of non-federal sponsors' real estate acquisition capacity. And the Corps was requesting this as part of the final report for them to be able to release it for public comment. And in order to avoid delaying the approval process for the final feasibility report and the integrated environmental assessment, the Executive's Office signed the non-binding documents, and we provided them to the Corps in order for them to proceed to release that final report and the assessment. We did ask the Corps if we could delay the submittal of the documents for board consideration prior to doing so, and they indicated to us that would have been problematic and would have delayed the project. And so we made the decision to go ahead and do that with the Executive's Office. Again, I just want to emphasize that these are non-binding documents and that the board in the future will have under consideration as to what point and how far they want to go with projects with the Corps based upon the results of the study. So, again, on behalf of the Executive's Office, requesting the board consider the resolution, and I know Nick had put in here that the letters have already been sent, and so the board will be confirming the execution of the documents and officially approving the transmittal of those documents to the Corps. Just as a note, the report and integrated assessment as a result of us submitting those documents are now available for second public comment period on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers website. And that public comment period is 15 days and runs through May 17th, with the U.S. Army HQ final approval being anticipated of the project in July. So we did this again to keep things on track. I know I have Scott here. If anybody has any questions on the particulars of the project or what's been done and where it's going to be going in the future. But the main thing today is we want to get this before you with this resolution. So I appreciate your time.
Any questions? Doesn't look like there's any, so I am in need of a motion to place this on the Will County Board agenda. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, there's no other old business. That wraps up the old business. And now we move on to new business. And first on the top of the agenda for new business, we have a report on the April 2nd election for 2019. And we have Will County Clerk Lauren Staley Ferry to provide that report.
Where do you want me?
Right up there, go ahead.
Down here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I am. All right. Good morning, County Board. Thanks for having me today. So Chuck is passing out a copy of an election report that we created this time. As a previous county board member, I don't remember receiving anything like this, and we just thought it would be really helpful. Having gone through it this first time, it is an amazing operation, and I wanted all of you to know, just about a high-level overview. There's a lot of information in the report here, but it really details the processes, the deployment of staffing and equipment, and the costs. I also included challenges and any procedural changes, and so they're in there as well. It's certainly an attempt to be as comprehensive and transparent as possible. We may have not included everything in here, so if you have questions, we are more than willing to, supplement with other reports that we, for anything that you have. I wanted to say a huge thanks to my county clerk staff and the team that helped with creating this report and everything, on Election Day and the events leading up to it. It's, like I said, it's an amazing operation. So I am going to run through this very quickly. Please take time to go ahead and read through the report and let me know if you have any questions. But I'm going to go ahead and fly through this, so I won't take up too much time. So we start off with the filing of the nominating petitions. There were 140 school board candidates that filed, along with their statements of economic interest. There were 622 candidates total on the ballot. In our office, we also received the certificates of ballot for any referenda, candidates for municipalities, park districts, library districts, and fire. We did have 2 objections this go-around. So they were for the Bolingbrook Park District. We had 3 hearings at the courthouse, and both of the candidates remained on the ballot. So we did have like a minor change for this process. When people come in to look at signatures or thinking about objecting to a petition, previously they would sit with our staff, and our staff would go through. We ended up working with IT and creating secure terminals for candidates that wanted to come in and do that. So they are able to sit alone on a secure terminal and check signatures, which frees up our staff to continue doing their important work throughout the day. So that was exciting. One of the challenges that we did see through that process was that the way that we hold the lottery, we are looking at having the state board approve the way that we hold the lottery currently, or do it according to statute. So we are working through that right now. Voter registration, the voter registration department processed 15,571 registrations from December of 18 through April. 6,630 were newly registered voters. The rest were address changes and name changes. There were 439,720 registered voters in 2019 and 419,882 in the 2017 consolidated election. So there's some costs here. 50,000 voter cards we had printed for $9,542. We print and mail those cards in-house in batches of 1,500. We've mailed 24,107 cards since then. We had like a large batch prior from when I took office, so that's included in there. Some challenges and changes. We really want to look at revamping the voter cards, just kind of streamlining the wording, improving spacing, and any issues on the cards. And then there is a statute that we have to do a mass mailing every 2 years. So it's been done in the summer months of even years. So we are looking at that for 2020 and examining any efficiencies that we can do with that mailing. All right, ballot tabulators. So we own 420 M100s. Those are the tabulators that go out on Election Day. We own 379. We put 379 in the field, 1 in each of the 304 polling places, and we send 75 to field technicians as backups. The DS200s are the bigger machines that we have in all of the early voting locations. Those go to all the local clerks, and we have 6 that stay here. ES&S, Electronic Systems and Services, is our largest vendor. They come out, they do logic and accuracy testing on all of the equipment before the election and the weeks prior to the election, the months prior to the election. They repair any damaged equipment. They have technical experts that come out to work with our ballot on demand, early voting equipment. So there's some costs listed out here. Our contractual costs with ES&S, $279,825 for this election. In 2018, it was $267,620. I mean, the numbers are pretty similar there. The increase is, per the contract, and then we did have more people in the field on Election Day this time. So we are actually looking at meeting with the vendor on our contract to see what we can do as far as cost reductions. A lot of that will be possibly bringing that logic and accuracy testing back in-house. Instead of having our vendor do it and outsource it, we would like to have our staff complete that testing. They've done it before. We think they can do it again. So we're going to work with our vendor to do that. Ballot preparation and printing. So we had 334 distinct ballot styles for this election. There's 101 in a general election. So It's a really big difference. It's a huge process, all the proofing and making sure that the ballots are accurate and correct. The cost to print the ballots are $427,000, 15 pre-printed ballots, $119,564. Blank ballots is like a shell ballot for our ballot on demand printer, so it's like ballot paper that gets printed on demand. $15,029 cost $5,260.15, and then 13,842 voter applications for $3,460. One of the challenges that we saw with this, the statute requires the county clerk or all the county clerks to print 10% more ballots than there are registered voters. So that 110% ballot printing requirement, as you know, for an election like this past one with a 13% turnout, there's a huge waste. So we are looking at, obviously, we don't want to impede, you know what I mean, having enough ballots for everybody if we did happen to have 100% voter turnout, which is what our goal is, every time. But the reality is we don't have that. So we are looking at ways to manage those costs, working with our legislators since it is statute. And so we are going to, talk to them to find out how we can manage those costs.
Right, especially during consolidating, so few people come out for that versus the other elections. Crazy. We never get 100% anyway.
It was one of the first things we noticed. You know what I mean? It's a big deal that, we have to print that much and so much is wasted. So we want to go ahead and take a good look at that to see how we can manage those costs without, obviously we want to make sure that everybody has access to the ballot. So we don't want
I
to.
have another question on that, if you don't mind. I know that we had some situations where the wrong ballots went out. What did you find was the reason, and what steps are you taking for looking into, and I know issues can happen, obviously.
It is in the book here.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Yep, early voting, vote by mail. I'll
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
get to it really
All right,
quick. Yep.
okay. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Throw me off, Judy.
Sorry.
I'm just
Sorry,
kidding.
Lord.
So the voter information guide, you guys are probably really familiar with this. Everybody gets one. It's the like quadruple page document that gets sent out in the mail with the sample ballot in it. So that went out to 207,780 households. There is statutory requirements for that as well. We have to let people know about voting aids, methods of which they can vote, early voting locations and hours, the notice of election, any referenda that's on the ballot. The cost for that is $50,997. In 2007, it was $48,564 with an additional $5,000 for the Homer Township primary, so pretty much the same. We did see one challenge with this. We had somebody call, they looked up their sample ballot online and noticed that they didn't have a race in their area on their sample ballot. It was our staff, immediately jumped on this one to find out what happened, but it was a miscoding in a redistricted area. So only impacted the election department. We were able to get to the vendor and have them reprint the information, and so we were able to take care of that very quickly. It did have an added cost, though, to have them, reprint and resort some of those guides. But we have some meetings with vendors on the calendar right now to talk about revamping the guide, just because it's very big right now. It's that 4-page folded guide. We think that we may be able to minimize some of the information on it and, really just make it more comprehensive and robust for voters out there. And hopefully, again, manage the costs. If we can decrease that at all, then we would like to do that as well. Let's see, the poll record binder covers. This was a very interesting, when we wrote the report, this is just quick information, 450,900 applications and 1,013 covers to these applications were printed. These applications confirm, the voter signature. When you go to vote, you sign on it, and so they match the registration database. It was $37,424. So in this consolidated election, there were 57,865 votes cast. We printed 450,000 of these applications. So right now, there's a sticker that gets put on it. We have a printer. The sticker gets printed on it that's got your name. We are going to look at a way to make that universal, to have the election, the precinct, all the information that's on the application right now on that sticker. So we can use those applications that get printed all of the time, election after election after election. So excited about that too, because we see a lot of waste in some of these things. Polling places, just really quick, we have 304 precincts located in 244 locations. We have a storage company, Mayflower, that delivers and sets up all the election equipment. It's $75 in rent per precinct to each polling place, so that cost is $22,800. And the Mayflower, the storage, the company setup, the moving company and setup service was $58,671. Okay, early voting, vote by mail. This is a big area department of the office. We had 4,896 requested and returned vote by mail ballots. 6,378 were requested, so there were 1,482 that were not returned. We had 11 U.S. military request vote by mail ballots, and all 11 were returned and completed and counted. So the postage for each vote by mail ballot is $2.30. So the total postage was $15,100. We used $11,900 worth of postage on leftover envelopes from the previous administration. She had pre-printed postage on the envelopes. We just made labels that said my name and put the labels on the envelopes so we didn't have to waste the prepaid postage that were on the envelopes. It worked great. We had the staff, affix those in-house. So we ended up only spending $3,200 for new postage on this election. This was the first time in a while, I think, that we sought estimates from union print shops. And we did find out that diversifying the print vendors resulted in a $962 savings compared to the other quote we got. So $2,683.87 to print vote by mail envelopes, $14,1252 for in-office voter applications. It does talk about the printer, the jam here. So it really does detail out what happened. It was a printer jam. We spoke with state's attorney right away. It impacted 5 ballots, and everything was resolved.
Where were those at, one of the 5 ballots?
Frankfurt, Homer,
Lockport.
Joliet.
Joliet, right. I think that covers it.
Yeah, maybe 2 in Joliet. I can't remember the exact location. But everybody was contacted. They were mailed they were overnighted a corrected ballot. Yeah, so it went well. Let's see, early voting and in person, 8,266 compared to 8,782 for 2017. We have 21 early voting locations, including the clerk's office. Fountaindale Public Library, we did get them to expand to weekends and evenings, which was good. They're a very busy location. And then we did bring on Shorewood Village Hall with a commitment for them to serve in 2020 as well. So Fountaindale Public Library costs $5,325. That includes 4 part-time clerk staff members at $13 an hour. City of Naperville, that cost is for their staff time beyond their normal work hours. Wheatland Township, same thing. And then we have Borman Transport, who transports the early voting equipment to those locations, and that's $6,070.50. We did find a challenge there. The Wheatland Township location is not going to work in the future. We have talked to the township clerk there. Parking is terrible. It's a small location, so we're actually going out to meet with them to talk to them, just to let them know we understand their concerns, and we are going to look at other locations in that area.
So you said that Bolingbrook expanded to Saturdays,
Yeah. Yep.
and so are all the locations now on the same time frame?
Oh,
No.
no, they're not.
How do we get that down?
They have contracts, so the early voting locations have to be open. Well, the permanent polling places have to be open the same times we are in the clerk's office.
They have to mirror our hours.
They have to mirror our hours.
For the early voting sites, right?
That's
Right.
their own decision,
The
huh?
permanent polling places, the permanent. So we can ask them, and we have had conversations with some of the locations to ask them if they can stay, have the same hours that we do, but they may not have the staff to accommodate that. So it really just depends on what they can do. conversations that we continue to have with each location.
Yeah, it's just not fair if it's open Saturdays in one area and not in another area. I mean, I know they can build somewhere else.
I mean, that's the goal right now, is to see if we can.
That is the goal,
standardize.
right,
Yeah.
right. That would make things, yeah.
But again, we have conversations with these clerks, or we're having conversations with these clerks prior to, sending out the contracts with them. They, have the ability to control their offices. Our goal would be always to, have hours open as much as possible, or as close to our hours as possible. But, again, they control their offices, and so we're working with them.
Quickly, poll books, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just to be clear, so the individual clerk sets the hours for the early voting at each location. So it's set up by the clerk. So at Wheatland Township, it's set up by the Wheatland Township clerk.
Correct. They
Okay.
fill out an application
And-
that specifically says they'll be open, they choose to be open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4.
And so they provide the staff, or do you provide the staff?
For some locations, they
man.
provide the staff. Like for Fountaindale, it's part-time staff from the clerk's office.
I think if there was some continuity, there would be less confusion, and I think that would be one of the goals we'd want to have, especially with maybe staffing. I know Wheatland, that was part of their concern, the volume and staffing it and the cost, and then also, if everybody knows that we have the same hours at each location, it would also be beneficial. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for that. So in those permanent polling places too, where we staff them, they are a little bit more expensive. We talked about in the office going out east and finding a permanent polling place out in eastern Will County that would have extended hours, voter registration services, same day, but that would be like a $5,000 cost because we would staff it and have the same hours as the clerk's office. I mean, it would be ideal if we had that everywhere because it would be the same hours, our staff, but it is more costly.
The one thing we do, though, is we try to make certain that we let people know in our voter information guide
Where they
that,
can-
here are your early voting hours, in the voting sites that are closest to you. So that is, customized for specific regions and specific precincts. We also post it online, and we have, pretty detailed information about early voting hours online as well on our website.
So I think we have to get to the point where
If it's going to cost us money, we have to have these places open at the same time. We can't not have Saturdays somewhere and have Saturdays in other places, even if it's going to cost us, because then it's not fair to the constituents in a particular area if they can't vote on a Saturday.
I'm in total agreement with you on that, Mike, but here's the thing, so I'm just going to make a clarification. If they're not permanent voting sites, they do, they can choose when they want to be open.
That's right.
Such as in Cree Township, they're open from 9 to noon.
Right.
And then reopen from 1 to 3. That doesn't help the working people that are getting off the trains. So, we need a permanent site out there, and that's how I feel it also should be across the board. I would rather spend the money so the people get to vote.
Yes, ma'am.
So my opinion is a bit different, and you're probably looking for input from everybody, I assume.
great.
My opinion is from voters that I talk to, I mean, there are people who they early vote, and they know when to vote in our area. It's a smaller area than large areas, and they kind of know when to vote, where they're going to go to vote. They don't have any problem. As far as taking on additional costs, as far as the time, to me, it's less expensive perhaps to mail them a ballot, and everyone has that option to take a mail, ask for a vote by mail. And that would, if that saves us money, that makes more sense than having staff be open and try and make everybody be open the same amount of time as our office here, because it's a different type of staffing, in my opinion. And there are so many options to vote. You can vote by mail, you can early vote, you can vote, and a lot of people want to vote only on Election Day, because they feel that's the day that my vote counts, because it's Election Day. So I think you guys looking into it will come up with a good thing, but I don't think there's one fix for everything except for on Election Day.
Yep. Well, great, thank you, we appreciate the feedback. Rachel?
Yeah, I wanted piggyback off of what Judy said, that I would love to see you guys do, even if it was just a pilot program for a small portion of Will County even, to really push the vote by mail. So it's, instead of sending out the voter information, you're actually sending out the ballot. So you're sending the same amount of postage on the going, and then it's the return when you would be increasing your costs on that. But if you could get, first of all, a higher return, as you guys know, some of the stats in other states and areas have a much higher turnout with vote by mail, but then long-term, you would be cutting down your costs because you wouldn't have to have as many early voting locations and judges and everything else. So, you know, even if we started small, pick a couple precincts, or if we could do all Will County, that would be even better. But I know you have to work with the state. So I think long-term, that should really be, if we weren't talking about saving money, that's really where a huge cost savings is. And the flip side, the positive side of that is you have a much higher voter turnout, and that's been proven across the United States.
All right, thanks. Okay, quick, I know I'm going a long time here. You guys are all familiar with the poll books, I'm sure, so I'll go ahead and skip that. There's a lot of good numbers in there and what we had out in the field. Packing, staging, delivery of supplies and equipment. This is, I think, a little section, but it's really a huge deal for our office. There are 304 supply bags, boxes, election binders, extra materials that need to get to the polling place on election day. We have a huge space issue and challenge. Our equipment literally overflows into the public areas, into the office. But we make do, but it is quite the operation. Our staff down in the basement getting all of the supplies and making sure that everything accurately gets sent to the polling places is truly amazing and quite a feat. Election judges, again, I won't go through all the numbers here, but it's a two-person team that handles the election judges that go out on election day. There's some great stats in the report and how they manage all of the people and get them to where they need to be, supply pickup, key pickup for locations that aren't open. Challenges remain, obviously, it's a perennial challenge for us to recruit election judges. It's just really hard. We've been out in the community at some expos and really trying to talk to people about becoming an election judge and just making them aware. We've heard a lot of good feedback, but again, we're going to be talking to outreach to students, younger people, but we may also reach out to all of you to say, reach out to your communities, your county board districts, let people know that we are looking for election judges. And that we are going to be recruiting heavily for the upcoming election. Field technicians, these are our first responders. They're election judges that are advanced. They know the technology. They have 4 different locations on election day. They go from each location, answer calls, help with technology, really just make sure everything's running smoothly. There's an election day synopsis in the report. It is not only a long day for election judges, but it is for the staff. We arrive at the office at 4:30, and some of us don't leave until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. 4:30 a.m., yes, of course. On election day, our field technicians in our office recorded 253 calls. We use it's called WebEOC, and it's through our EMA office that helps us with that. So we took 253 calls on election day. The majority were due to poll book printer malfunctions, campaign free zone violations, and electioneering calls. All the calls were addressed by the staff in the office, state's attorneys, anybody that was out in the field. Everything was addressed without any disruption to voting. Very smooth day. Yes.
While you're on page 10 and 11,
Okay.
you mentioned, I tried not to throw you off like Judy did. But you mentioned your staff there late, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm looking at page 10, 4:30 a.m., facilities open, 5, 11 a.m., somebody troubleshooting. How does that affect your budget? Does that cause any, I'm sure it swells your budget, but is that overtime? How does that affect your budget when you have to stay that late, start that early?
We have a count time schedule for the election.
Built in?
For the election day, yep.
Okay.
It's
All
count
right.
time.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks for coming down. So my question is, what are the blank ballots that we need to print? 15,000 blank ballots.
way back in the beginning pages.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to interrupt because I figured maybe we'd get to it. But my concern is when I look at $120,000 to print ballots, 110% of them, and then it says total cost of printing 15,029 blank ballots was only 5,000. Blank ballots are printed on ballots on demand. So it seems like the clerk's office has the ability to
Right.
print them if a precinct were to run out, correct?
Right.
So
That
then
is
why do
one
we
of
need
the-
110% in the first place? I mean, to me, this is just
Exactly.
absolutely ludicrous.
Exactly.
And that's a massive savings. So if you want to take half of that money, I mean, 1/8 of those ballots were used in reality. That money could open up a whole lot of places. The second question I have is, how many individuals are there how many judges are there? 5 per precinct? 5. As we migrate more towards early voting, off-site voting, permanent voting locations, mail-in voting, do we really need 5 in the future? I mean, is this something, one of our precincts in New Lenox had like 26 voters. I mean,
I think there's legislation actually out there that lessens the amount. I think you can actually have 3, but you want to have 2 from each party at least, right? So.
Yeah. 1 from each party, maybe. I mean,
Right. So, it is something that we
It
will
would, I mean, it would
explore
not
also.
only save on the ballots, but then you would save a tremendous amount of money paying election judges, because you paid $250,000 for 5 of them, and half of them are probably sitting there bored out of their mind.
Right. I mean, I think in the general elections, we'll probably need all of them.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but
Yep.
to have that flexibility for the
Yep.
consolidated.
Absolutely. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to say in response to Mr. Tuminello's comments, much of this is statutorily required. It's not like she has a choice. And the clerks over the years, I mean, this, almost as long as I've been here, clerks have been trying to work with the legislature to make this better, but it is a difficult thing, you know. I'm like Lauren indicated before, the legislature does not want anyone showing up at the polling place and not getting a ballot, and legislation affects every county statewide. So I don't know that every single county has the ability to print ballots on demand, and I don't know, and Lauren, you can answer this, but I don't know if we have the ability to print ballots at every single polling place.
We not at every single polling
No,
place.
so
We would have
those
to-
are part of the issues, so yeah.
I'm not blaming.
No, okay, I just wanted to make sure it was,
But to me,
yeah.
it just seems, I mean, it's obvious to me that.
Somebody has a lobbying company downstate that owns the ballot printing company, but I don't want to get into that. But I mean, when you're printing, I mean, massive amounts, there's got to be millions and millions and millions of ballots that just get thrown away. That's a waste.
So the one thing that we do is we have locations, larger locations spread
Sure.
out throughout the county that are prepared to print ballots on demand. So for example, if there were some snafu at a various, at a specific polling place, they would be able to print those
them
ballots.
and take them to that
100 and take them
location.
over.
Right.
there. Exactly.
So let me ask you a question. Being that we had the 13%, how many actual ballots needed to be printed and rushed to a precinct because they ran out? None.
None.
That's
Right.
my point.
Right.
That's our point too.
Our point too, right. Lauren? Yes.
I wanted to add that I think as far as how many election judges you need at a precinct, I think you have to really look at each district because they're different. And in our district, there were several times when we have a lot of new registered voters because there's a lot of people moving, and new people moving in. There were several instances where there was confusion because of the name or the signature, and 1 or 2 election judges was pulled off to the side, and many times that line built up to maybe 6 or 7 residents waiting to vote. So if you take a district like that and you knock it down, it could be a problem. So I think, again, you have to consider the characteristics of the voter base there and the residential. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank
Great,
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we're almost done. Satellite counting stations. So at the end of the night on Election Day, we do have satellite counting stations. Plainfield, Moni, Bolingbrook, the Levy Center in Bolingbrook, and then here. 3 county clerk staff members go. We have 1 person from IT. 15 election workers to check in the judges, and then we do have the sheriff's deputies that help transport and then stay out in those locations for security, traffic control, things like that. The costs are listed here as well. I think all of you are familiar with the public test, central count, retab, provisional count. Most of you should be. They're all public held here. A lot of people I've seen there. A lot of information there. And then we were able to send out a lot of press releases, a lot of media coverage about the things that we have coming up as far as, public test, central count, election, voting, early voting, all of these things. We have tried to increase our social media presence as well. This is all for outreach, engagement in the voting process. Again, 13% turnout is not great, so we want to get the word out there and get people engaged as much as we can. So this is, really a hard and fast summary I gave you guys. There's a lot of information. It's a work in progress. This is, my first election, the first time we've done a report like this. So we are hoping to, make it better each time. We want to, give these reports to you, after each election, so you're aware of the costs and everything. Big thanks to IT, to the sheriff's office and the deputies that come out, the staff, and it truly is a team effort to make this happen. It's an amazing operation, and it was very exciting. So if you guys have questions or any feedback, please let us know. We are more than willing to, answer any questions, and we will be working on the report in the future. Go ahead, Judy.
Okay, Judy.
Yeah, I just have a couple things I want to say. Great job on the summary of that. It's good information that we didn't have in the past, or Nancy might have come up and told us it.
Sure.
But it's nice to have it here so you can actually, if a constituent asks questions, we could say, well, you know what, we do this and we do that and da-da-da, and we know the timing is extensive on that election day. So that was really good, and obviously you learned it inside and out, because you would be living it every day.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Thanks.
I had a couple questions, and it's not really related to this, but I know that legislation is dead on that county clerk thing. But I was wondering, you know how legislation happens to come up again, would you possibly be taking the time to look into what the cost might be in case it came up? I know you guys were very busy and it was your first election. There's no way that you could do that. But do you think you guys might be doing that in case it come up again, and maybe it won't? I mean, who knows for sure? And you don't even have to answer that. I was just thinking that'd be something to tell us if you do have the time to look into it. Because like on a day like Election Day, you can see there'd be a significant additional cost if a clerk weren't in a position you had to put another employee out there for that day. So it's kind of looking into that. And then in addition to that, we, there was some questions regarding the person who went and spoke on behalf. Did you guys end up having a lobbyist? And I know you can hire anybody you like. Mm-hmm. Did you guys hire a consultant or lobbyist to speak on behalf of the clerk's office that day, or not?
I think we're just going to stick to the election questions. We haven't hired a lobbyist yet.
No, you haven't hired, but somebody spoke on behalf of the clerk's office on that legislation.
I think we're going to keep it to the election report, Judy. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so thank you for that. It was good.
I appreciate it.
Thank you
Okay.
for this report. I found it interesting, and this is not, I wouldn't expect that this would be done at this point. I mean, I know that there's so much information in here, but I am curious, when you look at government providing services to the taxpayer, would you ever be able to do an analysis on the service of vote by mail versus early voting versus in-poll election day voting? Do you expect that you could ever get to that point where you would?
Like, vote by mail, like your question?
My question is, would you ever be able to compare the cost of delivering the service of voting when you deliver it vote by mail versus election day voting? I know that's a versus early voting. I know that's a huge ask. I'm just curious if it's anything that's possible. Why I ask is because I've heard over and over again in my circles, vote by mail is so much cheaper.
how do you know? You know, I hear that, and I'm wondering if there would ever be an opportunity to actually analyze that notion.
And you'd have to do it in like chunks, like if it was 100%, 50%, 25%, because in the initial, right, everyone's not gonna vote by mail, you're still gonna have to have elected services.
You know, and I did not mean to put you on the spot, by the way. I was just curious if this is a narrative that I hear, or if there ever would be data. And I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I think it would be a big project to do. I think we have some numbers, you know what I mean, already of
Yeah.
like election day costs and things like that. So I think we have a start at those numbers. It's not on our to-do list right now, that analysis.
Okay.
We have a lot to do, so, but it's certainly a good thought question, so we will.
I would imagine there should be some data, you know, across the nation.
Sure.
Somebody's probably done some of those, but Rachel's right in one respect. I mean, how can you say, if you had 100 votes of people that voted on that day, if you went down to 75, it doesn't necessarily change the cost, because you still have to be open and stuff, so it would be hard to say that vote costs this much, but there's got to be some national data on some of that stuff, because I'm sure somebody did a study somewhere.
On vote by mail and.
Yeah, could
I
be.
think one of the places to look is in Colorado right now. And
Yeah.
what they've done out there, we saw at the county clerk's convention earlier this year, we saw, you know, just what the cost savings were. You know, Colorado and Denver in particular have gone, focused a lot on vote by mail, and it was pretty impressive. They get a higher percentage of turnout and a lower, and much lower costs. But again, I mean, you know, these are things that are not statutorily provided for at this point in Illinois.
Right,
Ray?
correct.
Yeah,
And I think there's a
I
lot
gotta
to
be
take into
honest with you,
consideration too.
I love the question. Beth, I think it's a really good question. It's a legitimate question. But I do think, I would just say that we probably don't want to base it based on a 13% election, right? Let's go through some generals, and let's get the real numbers on what it actually costs to run an election. But I do love where you're coming, because, you know, if you did get 80% of people to vote by mail, you could lower your cost tremendously, because you would need less places. I'm sure if 80% of people were voting by mail, you could probably close down half your precincts, right? Because you wouldn't have anybody going. I don't know statutorily if you could do that or not, but I thought it was a great question, Beth.
It is a good question.
Julie?
Lauren, yes, I had a comment. It's kind of related to what Ray just said. We've got vote by mail, we've got election day. Why is our early voting period so long? Is it not possible to have 2 weeks of walk-in early voting? That would reduce the costs associated with that. Instead, I think when the early voting started, February, was it February 21st, or, I'm not, it's a really long period of time there. So isn't there some way to, we've made it very convenient. I don't know how much more convenient we can make voting, so that's one thing I just wondered why we have it so
40 days
long.
prior is at our office, so our staff is
Open.
already on board. Our office is open.
We're open for
and ready
business.
to go. So we're taking early voting 40 days prior. The early voting at the satellite locations is
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any further questions? Gloria?
And then again, this just kind of piggybacks on the early voting. I noticed in your, on page 7, you say you're in discussions about early voting on east side of Joliet. What's driving that discussion? Because I kind of think of this location as your east side. So I'm just curious, because I just want to make sure that we're not missing other areas. So what drives the decision to bring an early voting location on?
We're looking actually everywhere, you know what I mean? We're looking out in eastern Will County, other areas, you know, eastern, you know, the east side of Joliet, in all areas of the county, we're actually looking. Those are, we stated the ones that we are actually, that we are having conversations with currently.
Statistics, or is it just driven, how is the decision made? Like what happened? Like how is the decision developed?
You know, I mean, it's funny, because like we took a look at Shorewood, for example, you know, and realistically, Shorewood is well-served, that area by Troy Township, but when when we had conversation with them about possibly coming on board, and lessening a burden and with a commitment to, serve in the general election in 2020, we jumped on board and said absolutely. Same thing with Joliet on the east side. If we can add more locations in a cost-efficient manner, that's certainly something that we want to do.
There is concern there. I'm sure that's why you look over turnout normally kind of low in that area of Joliet, and I'm sure that's why the concern is there. And I do like that, Gloria, because I think that's a good idea to constantly look at areas where there is voter turnout and wonder why and what can we do to help it. I think it's important, as you all know, for everybody to vote. But what is the problem why they're not coming out and vote? And historically, that area turnout has been very low. And I'm glad you all have eyes on that, as well as the others, as you mentioned. I'm glad for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that extensive report.
Sorry.
And
Thank you.
and if anybody else has any further questions, they can stop by and see you
Absolutely.
at your
Call,
office.
stop by. I'm always here. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, next new business, transportation planning grant updates, and we need a motion to table this until the June 6th meeting. Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any questions? Okay, motion carries. Next, confirming the award of contract to Gallagher Asphalt for $5,270,535.26 for Arsenal Manhattan Road from Baseline Road to Magnolia Lane, County Board District 6th. Motion to move this to the agenda? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Ayes have it. Next, resolution to use MFT funds for the funding of Arsenal Manhattan Road from Baseline Road to Magnolia Lane, County Board District 6, $3,600,000. All in favor? Aye. All right. Next, authorizing the approval of contract for debris removal located at 2928 West Indiana Avenue in Beecher, Illinois, and that is County Board District Number 1. Motion and second to move it to the county board. All in favor? Aye. All right, next, renewing participation in the State of Illinois Federal Excess Property Program. Can I have a motion? Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Authorizing an IGA with Lewis University to provide access to the county-wide radio system.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Awarding the bid for household hazardous waste collection.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Authorizing addendum with A-Team's recyclers for turnkey electronic recycling, collection, and processing services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We need a motion here to remove,
Wait, number 10 is first.
oh, I'm sorry,
We got two.
number 10, I'm sorry, number 10 here. Authorizing a contract with A-Team Recyclers for one-day and Lockport Program electronic recycling service. All in, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Next, number 11, authorizing IGA with Joliet to provide water to Fairmont subdivision. We need a motion to remove this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing an IGA with Joliet concerning Will County Continuum of Care. I have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is it because it's going to come back later?
We knew when we put it on that they might not have all the documents ready.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Yes. They will be bringing it back once they have everything finalized.
All right, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Where am I at, 13?
Yes.
Okay, next we have authorizing renewal of the wraparound professional liability insurance for the Will County Community Health Center. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Confirming the RTA FY18 and FY19 enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities continuation projects grant. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Authorizing the RTA fiscal year 17 enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities continuation projects grant award agreement. Motion in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Confirming the fiscal year 2020 Northeastern Illinois Area Agency on Aging application for grant funds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Replacement hires for the County Executive Maintenance Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Replacement hires for the Records Management Department. Motion in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objectors? Motion carries. Okay, next, the Kankakee Regional Development Authority, which is AKA, also known as WKR-DAK appointments. This is an informational letter which will be sent out to the county executive asking for recommendations to appoint this board.
No, there's no action.
No action on that, just informational.
You know they'll be coming forward.
That'll be on the way. Snail mail or email, one of the two. All right, proclamations. There'll be,
We have two to be read into the record, recognizing the 110th anniversary of Fort Erie Elks Lodge number 167 and declaring the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
okay. And then the appointments, to move them over to the county board. Motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Other new business, we need to add a resolution authorizing the state's attorney's office to file a suit against the inmates in jail after they are out to collect the cost of their incarceration. Mary, you got a comment on that?
Sure. There has been a statute on the books for a very long time that allows us to pursue those who have the financial resources to pay for a certain portion of their incarceration. We have not traditionally done that, but we have been working on it, and we think we're prepared to start filing suit against some of the individuals, and so we need authority from county board to go forward with that.
Thank you, Mary. Can we have a motion to move that county? Oh, I'm sorry.
Really quick, is that just for people who are found guilty, I'm assuming?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move that to county board. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Next, we have committee reports. Anything, any comments from the committee heads that are here? Tyler?
I need to make a motion to save space for 6 zoning cases under land use, so I'll make that motion. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, are there any other committee reports or requests? Lori Summers.
Just a couple of updates. We had Veronica Gloria from, as recommended by Rachel Ventura from the Spanish Community Center, come and speak to us. The other thing that we are looking at, and we had a long discussion on starting an ad hoc committee, every one of you should have received something explaining what the ad hoc committee was going to be about and what it was going to consist of. I know there was questions from Mr. Frizzalone about that. Hopefully, we're going to move forward on that. And the other thing that I have to say is I have to throw this out there because it is Nurses Week. So hug a nurse for me. Okay, so where's my, you guys, it's Nurses Week. Where is my deck of cards? There should have been 50 of them sitting here. So missed opportunity, everybody, but I can't say enough about the people who choose to go into healthcare, no matter what that is, whether it is as a dietitian or as a CNA or as someone that keeps the floors clean for us. I can't do my job without them, and so we should be celebrating all of them because it's a tough, tough line of work to go into. Happy Nurses Day to everyone.
I need that. Can I ask Lori a question?
Sure.
When you said Veronica's coming, are you, to talk to us, are you talking about the full board?
No, she came to...
Oh, she came to your committee? Oh, okay, all right.
We're trying to bring people together across the board. And it's working, so...
All right. Well, thank you all for your participation. Is there any more committee reports, any other comments from committees? Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to move to public comment. Anybody from the public want to comment? Anyone from the public want to comment? I don't see anyone. And I'll ask one more time. Public comment, anybody? Anybody? Okay. Let's move on to the chairman's report. I have none. Mary, do we need an executive session?
Nope.
She says no. And now I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the county board agenda as amended. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, I need a motion to adjourn.
Remind them that we have
And the next meeting for this group will be June 6th. Mark that on your calendar. And right after this meeting, we have a meeting of the Committee of the Whole. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
We got that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?